Senator Scott is our guest and joins us now on Happening Now. Senator, it's nice to have you back on the program.
Thank you. Good morning. Good to be back with you.
One of the great things about talking to you is that you had this whole life before politics. You ran 2 successful businesses, so you have that experience, and you brought that with you to Washington. And that's one of the criticisms for Marco Rubio from people like Chris Christie, who call him the boy in the bubble, saying he doesn't really have any experience outside this political world. And I'm wondering, considering your background, why you think Marco Rubio is still the right choice.
The reality is, if you have the opportunity to lead, can you lead? I look for people who have demonstrated the ability to lead, and Marco Rubio is absolutely a rock-solid conservative who can lead. Quizzing him over the last several months, as I have every single candidate, you remember that I went through 12 presidential forums, 1 candidate at a time. I had a chance to evaluate their leadership skills, evaluate their intellect, and see their capacity to turn this country back towards conservative principles. This election is good news for conservatives. We have a couple of candidates who truly have demonstrated the ability to lead and the ability to bring people together. Marco Rubio, head and shoulders, is the guy that does that the best.
One of the things you said on Greta's show last night is that you said that Marco Rubio has the capacity for leadership. And I'm curious if you could give us some very specific examples. Where have you seen him demonstrate this leadership and get actual results?
One of the great places to start is the fight against Obamacare. We have been fighting this fight since 2010, when conservative voters throughout the country brought together a class of conservatives. Marco Rubio is one candidate, without question, that's led the successful effort to remove the basic bailout fund for health insurance companies from the Obamacare legislation. This is good news. That is a leadership position that we should celebrate, because he's been very successful in leading the charge to eliminate those bailout funds for health insurance companies. So that's a classic example of someone who not only is a conservative, but gets conservative agenda items done in Congress, which is, as we all know, very difficult to do in this environment.
Absolutely, and healthcare is a big issue. It's a big sector in our economy, so it's certainly something to pay attention to. Immigration, though, is another big issue, and you've seen the attacks on Marco Rubio and
Yes.
whether or not his leadership worked when it came to the Gang of 8 and his policies on immigration in Washington, D.C. What do you say to critics who say that's the issue for them, and that's why they can't support Marco Rubio, because they feel like he did not lead for conservatives on that topic?
Yeah, no question. Lessons learned from 2013, without any question. I am a guy that my entire time in politics, I have said very clearly, the immigration conversation, the illegal immigration conversation, has to start with our borders, deal with our biometric system that's broken through our visa system. And if you don't start there, I'm not endorsing you. I've had that conversation with Marco Rubio, and he has been clear and he has been consistent. He learned a valuable lesson. He understands that any conversation about illegal immigration first starts with our borders, deals with our visa system, and amnesty cannot be a part of that package. He has committed that to me. I trust him. I have confidence in his word. That's why I'm supporting him.
Well, and that says something. I mean, for sure. One of the issues that you keep on bringing up, and we've seen in a few different interviews now, is that Marco Rubio is the conservative that you really want to get behind. And you and Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz really came into Washington in a similar time. You had the Tea Party movement behind you, a lot of conversations on what defines a true conservative. And Ted Cruz is now saying he is the true conservative, because Washington, D.C. still hates him. That's how he validates it, and that apparently worked in Iowa. And I'm curious your thoughts on that, because there seems to be a little bit of a race to the bottom about who is the most conservative of them all. What defines a true conservative in 2016, and why do you think Marco Rubio is it?
The fact of the matter is, here's how I define conservatism. It's your record. The fact of the matter is that Heritage Action, one of the most conservative organizations in all of the country, says that Marco Rubio is 94 out of 100 times conservative. That's pretty darn good. That's an A. The American Conservative Union says 98 out of 100 times Marco Rubio is a true conservative. Rush Limbaugh says that Marco Rubio is a full-throated conservative. I look at the record, not the rhetoric, and his record is consistent with being a rock-solid conservative. Myself, Trey Gowdy, and others who came in through that 2010 Tea Party wave, our records are consistent with conservatism. If you do not have a conservative record, all you have is conservative rhetoric, it will not fly with me.
You certainly piqued my interest when you said you sat down and really interviewed a lot of these candidates. Next time, I'd love to come and see that. I bet it's a tough conversation, Senator Scott. I bet you give them a good once-over to make sure they're the right people for the job.
Absolutely. This country must be undergirded by conservative principles. Our future is bright if we turn back to the conservative values that our founding fathers had. I'm looking for that candidate. I think I found it. I look forward to being supportive.
Senator Scott, great to have you on the program. Thank you so much.
God bless.